way to solve a system of equations, and it's going to be by elimination, okay? So whenever you eliminate something, you're getting rid of it, or you're like making it go away, okay? So that's basically what it means in this math problem. When we eliminate it, we're going to get rid of it, okay? You got to make it go away, okay? So right here, if I look at this example, okay, we got to look at these two problems, okay? And we're not going to solve it by substitution because nothing's by itself, okay? So you only want to use substitution when you have a variable by itself. For example, an x equals or a y equals. Well, we don't have an x equals or a y equals, so we're going to use elimination. Okay, so first thing, step one, you got to find is you need to find two variables that have the same coefficient with opposite signs. So, for example, that would be like a 2x and a negative 2x. So they have the same coefficient but opposite signs, or a negative 6x and a positive 6x, okay? Because that's how we're going to get them to eliminate, because if I know I add these, I'm going to get 0, okay? So right here, I'm going to start by finding two variables that I can eliminate. Well, this y matches this y, and they have opposite signs, so I'm good to go. One's positive, one's negative, okay? So step 2 is going to be we're going to add to eliminate. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to add these two equations together, okay? We're going to add straight down. So if you want to put a 1 in front of here, you can. I'm going to have a 1x plus a 2x, which is going to give me 3x, okay? The y's, well, if I have 1y plus a negative 1y, those cancel, that's gone. It has eliminated, which is what we want to happen, okay? So we should only have one variable. So I've got 3x equals, now I'm going to add again 7 plus 2, that gives me 9. Okay, now this is a problem I know how to solve. I've got 3x equals 9. To get this x by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by 3, and I'm going to have x equals 3. Okay, so we added to eliminate. Okay, we solved for x. Okay, so we solved for our first variable, but we need an x and a y, so we're going to have to substitute back in for our other variable. All right, so this 3 is going to have to go where the x was. So it doesn't matter which equation you use. You can use your first one or your second one, but I'm just going to use this first one right here. So instead of an x, I'm going to put a 3 plus, next I've got 1y equals 7. Now, unlike substitution, I can't just put this in my calculator because it doesn't just say y equals or x equals. So I'm actually going to solve this problem. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. I'm going to get 1y equals 4. When you divide both sides by 1, you're going to get y equals 4. The last thing you need to do, your step 4, is you have to write your answer as an ordered pair. Okay, so this one would be x and then y, so 3, 4. Okay, so you cannot throw substitution out the window because we still had to substitute right here. All right, let's go look at number 1, okay? First thing I need to find is two things that have the same coefficient but opposite signs. So these match, but they have opposites, so that means I'm good to go. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to add to eliminate, okay? When I do negative 6 plus 6, that cancels and gives me 0. I'm going to do 5 plus 4, which gives me a 9y equals, when I do 1 plus negative 10, I get negative 9. I'm going to divide by a 9. You're going to get y equals negative 1. All right, now that I've got my negative 1, okay, I've solved for y. Now I'm going to have to substitute back in for my other variable. So this negative 1, I'm just going to go ahead and put it into the top equation, has to go into this equation for the y. So I'm going to have 5 parentheses, negative 1 equals 1. All right, I'm going to actually have to solve this. So I'm going to have a negative 6x. 5 times negative 1 is a negative 5 equals 1. To solve this equation, I'm going to add 5 to both sides. I'm going to get a negative 6x equals 6. Divide both sides by a negative 6. I'm going to get x equals negative 1. Last thing we need to do is we have to write our answer as an ordered pair. So it's going to be x then y, so I'm going to have -1, comma, -1. All right, looking at number 2, okay, I would go in and I would highlight, find your things that have the same coefficient, but opposite signs. So these are both just y's, and they have opposite signs, which means I'm good to go. So that's what should eliminate. I'm going to add to eliminate. If you want to stick a 1 in front of this x, you can. 1x plus 2x is going to give me 3x. My y's are going to cancel, equals 11 plus 19 is 30. To get this x by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by 3, and I'm going to get x equals 10. All right, but I need my y, so I'm going to have to substitute this back into an equation. It doesn't matter which one you do. I'm going to just go into the first equation. So right here where that x is, I'm going to need to put a 10. If you want to have 1 parentheses 10, that's fine. Minus y equals 11. Well, 1 times 10 is just 10. So I've got 10 minus y equals 11. I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides. I'm going to have -y equals 1. You got to be careful here because this y is not all by itself. I'm going to need to put a 1 in front of this y and divide both sides by a -1. And then I'm going to get y equals -1. Last thing you got to do is write your answer as an ordered pair. So I'm going to have x, then y. So 10, comma, -1. All right, number 3 is a little bit different. When I come look at number 3, there's nothing that matches right off the bat. Like this 6 doesn't match that 6, and this 6 or that 12 doesn't match that 2. So we're going to come in and we're going to force it to match. So I'm going to think, what can I multiply this equation by to get these 6's to match? Well, this is really just a 1, so I know if I multiply this whole thing by a 6, I'll have a 6 and a 6x and a 6x, which is what I want. But they have to have opposite signs, so instead of a positive 6, I got to multiply this whole equation by a -6, okay? So my top equation is going to stay the same. And I'm going to multiply everything in this bottom equation by a -6. So I'm basically just distributing it. So it's going to be a -6x. You got to be careful, -6 times a -6 is a positive 36y. And then I also need to do -6 times 4, which is going to give me a -24, okay? From here, okay, I've got two things that match, and they have opposite signs, which means I'm good to go. So I'm going to add to eliminate. Okay, my 6x plus a -6x, that's going to cancel. I'm going to do -12 plus 36, and I'm going to get 24y equals 0 plus -24 is a -24. Okay, you're going to divide both sides by 24. -24 divided by a +4, I'm going to get y equals -1. Okay, I've got my y, so I've got to substitute it back in so I can find my x. So I'm just going to do my top equation. I'm going to have 6x minus 12. Instead of a y right here, I'm going to put a -1 equals 0. Okay, this problem's going to look a little bit funky, but just hang out with it. So I'm going to have 6x, a -12 times a -1 is a +12 equals 0. Okay, I got to get this 12 over with this 0, so I'm going to subtract it. And I'm going to have 6x equals -12, divide both sides by 6, and you're going to get x equals -2. Lastly, you have to remember to write your answer as an ordered pair. -2, comma, -1. All right. On number 4, I'm going to go in, I'm going to look for something that matches. Well, right now, nothing matches. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to force it to eliminate, okay? I know really easily that if I multiply this whole top equation right here by 4, that will get these x's to match. But they have to have opposite signs. So instead of a +4, I'm going to multiply it by a -4, okay? So I'm going to come in and I'm going to distribute a -4 into everything into that top equation. So I'm going to have a -4x plus 28y equals, and then you got to do -4 times 18, which is going to give me a -72. I'm going to bring down my bottom equation. And again, now that these match but have opposite signs, that means I'm good to go to eliminate. And to eliminate, I'm going to add. All right, my x's are going to cancel. When I do 28 plus -14, I get a 14y equals, then you got to do a -72 plus 30, which is going to give me a -42. Divide both sides by a 14, and you're going to get y equals, I think, negative 3. All right, so now I need to substitute that back in to find my x. So I'm just going to do my top equation. I'm going to have x minus 7. Instead of a y, I'm going to put a negative 3 equals 18. All right, I need to simplify negative 7 times negative 3, which is a positive 21, equals 18. I'm going to subtract 21 from both sides. I'm going to have x equals negative 3. Okay, last thing you got to do, write it as an ordered pair. So we have negative 3, comma, negative 3. All right, on number 15, I'm going to come here and see, or not 15, sorry, number 5. I'm going to see if anything matches. Right now, I don't have anything that matches. Like my 7 and my 4 don't match, my 8 and my 9 don't match. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to force elimination. The easiest way to go about this is I would swap your coefficients. So I know that if I multiply this top one by 4, that x is going to turn into a 28x. So that means I need to multiply this bottom one by 7. So now they're both going to be 28. But because they're both negative, I need one to be negative and one to be positive. I'm going to multiply this bottom one by a negative 7. Okay? So when I distribute this 4 into everything into this equation, I'm going to have a negative 28x minus 32y equals 36. All right, there's my top equation. Now I'm going to multiply everything in my bottom equation by negative 7. So I'm going to have 28x. Negative 7 times 9 is going to be a 63, I'm pretty sure. Okay, negative 63y equals, then I got to do negative 7 times negative 22. And that's going to give me a positive 154. All right, now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to check that I have the same coefficients, but they have opposite signs, which I do, which means I'm good to go. And I'm going to add to eliminate. Okay, negative 28 plus 28, that cancels to give me 0. Negative 32 plus negative 63, it's going to give me a negative 95y equals, I got to do 36 plus 154, and I get 190. I'm going to divide both sides by a negative 95. And I'm going to have y equals negative 2. All right, I've got my y, but remember I've got to substitute it back in to find my x. The easiest way to do this is to go back into one of your original equations. Now, you could go into one of these, but by the slight chance you mess something up, I would just go back into your original equation, and I'm going to have a negative 7x minus 8 instead of y. I just figured out that y is a negative 2 equals 9. Okay? Negative 8 times negative 2, that's going to be a positive 16. Okay? To get this x by itself, I'm going to subtract 16 from both sides. I'm going to have a negative 7x equals negative 7. Divide both sides by a negative 7 to get x equals positive 1. Last thing you got to do is write your answer as an ordered pair, so I'm going to have 1 comma negative 2. All right, last one for today, number 6. I'm going to go and see if anything matches. Right now, nothing matches, so I'm going to have to force it to eliminate. So I'm going to multiply my top equation by 5, because that'll give me a 15. And to make it match, I'm going to multiply my bottom equation by 3. But remember, I want them to match, but with opposite signs, so I'm going to make that 3 negative. Okay? When I go in and distribute this 5 to everything in this top equation, you're going to have a 15x minus 10y equals 10. Okay? We're going to do the same thing. We're going to distribute in our bottom equation. I'm going to have a negative 15x plus 15y, because a negative times a negative is a positive, equals negative 30. I need to go check that I have two things with the same coefficient but opposite signs, which I do. So that means I'm good to go to add to eliminate. These guys are going to cancel. Negative 10y plus 15y, that's going to be a 5y, equals 10 plus negative 30 is going to give me a negative 20. Divide both sides by 5, and you're going to get y equals negative 4. I got to find my x, so this y needs to go up here. And I'm going to have 3x minus 2 instead of a y. I just figured out that that's negative 4 equals 2. Okay? I'm going to simplify it. I'm going to have 3x plus 8 equals 2, because negative 2 times negative 4 is 8. I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. I'm going to have 3x equals negative 6. Divide both sides by 3, and you're going to have x equals negative 2. Last thing you got to do, write your answer as an ordered pair. So I'm going to have negative 2 comma negative 4.